Welcome back to another video, and thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Brendan. I'm the head coach and owner of Raw Motion Fitness, and today we've got another podcast. So for anyone who's new to the channel or who hasn't checked this out before, every few weeks I upload a podcast. I upload a podcast that is a summary of the resources that I send out in my weekly newsletter, which you can join by clicking the link in the description down below. I'm an officially, as of a couple of weeks ago, a functional patterns human foundations practitioner. And what that means is I help people who are in pain become pain-free, and I also help people live a pain-free, fit and healthy life. If you're new to the channel, then please stick around for all these resources and consider subscribing. Also consider getting onto that newsletter because you're going to get some wonderful resources coming your way soon. Let's kick things off because we've got 8 resources to cover for you today that are going to be very helpful for you moving forwards, and hopefully we'll just give you some food for thought, something that you can go and look at, something you can go and dive into, and all of these will be linked down in the description for you below so that you can read it, come back to it, save it, download it, do whatever you need to do. Resource number week 16's resources, right? Peat. I've mentioned him in previous episodes of this podcast. I've mentioned him in previous newsletters, but instead of giving you 2 specific resources, I actually gave you 2 food charts or food pyramids or food suggestions from Peat himself. Someone has either put these together or I don't know. If you Google Peat and put images, you'll see these things pop up. Things that surprised me on this list was orange juice and Coca-Cola with pure sugar, not the crap that comes with corn high fructose corn syrup. Things like nuts and seeds and specifically polyunsaturated fats. He just says, get rid of those. But really interesting, some of the foods, on that list aren't exactly what you would expect to see, and definitely worth looking into. And on myself, I've been testing some of these ideas and these concepts. I've always loved fruit. I've always loved a bit of vegetables. I've always found that those work really well for me when it comes to managing my weight and managing my health. And I've always loved a bit of animal protein. I've been vegan for a while. I still have days where I am a vegan, have days where I'm vegetarian. It's a mixed bag, and I think that's what life is. That's the kind of thing that you should look into if you're interested in optimizing your health. What I find really fascinating about people is that everybody wants the answer. Everybody's looking for the solution, or everyone's looking for a golden manual that comes and it's like, hey, here you go. This is the meaning of life, and this is everything you can do to regenerate your body, stay healthy, and live a healthy, happy life, and be the weight that you want to be. Oh, and get to eat everything you want to eat as well. And so I think that's really funny, and I think it's kind of sad in a sense, because I think that means that we've lost the sense of what it is to be human. And what it is to be human is that we're just an animal, we're just an organism, we live on this planet, and we exist, and animals do clever things and they do stupid things. With regards to Ray and his research and his development, he's studied human biology for many years and understands hormones, understands what works, what doesn't work, and is not really a mainstream figure, I would say. He's probably quite off the wall for a lot of folks. You've probably never heard of him, and it's not because he hasn't got valuable information, it's just because the way in which his information is put out to the world, it doesn't lend itself to the consumerist, sort of quick, fast-paced life that most people live these days. And it requires effort. This requires time and effort, and it requires people's experimentation, and that's probably the most important thing that you can take from these resources. I wouldn't say get into it unless you're willing to actually do the work. Actually, here's a good quote. It says, and this is for my clients to see when they come in, there's a new studio and everything, we'll get onto that later. Stay relentless in the pursuit of perfection, but don't get upset about the results you didn't get from the work that you didn't do. How about that one? On from there, that was week 16 covered. Week 17, we brought in a video on the Pygmalion Effect and also the functional patterns hierarchy of needs post that they put out. And so we'll start with the Pygmalion effect. I hope I'm saying that correctly, because if I'm not, then just correct me in the comments and make fun of me or something. I don't know. Anyway, it was a simple video about the beliefs that we have as humans and the perception of those beliefs and how they can affect other people. So one of the examples that they use is that if I'm a coach and I have a strong belief that someone will succeed and I really kind of take a shine to them, the chances of them succeeding are greater. And that would be based on an association that I will have made with that person. So for example, if I've seen this person's behaviors in other people that I maybe grew up with, or maybe people that I used to surround myself with, and they were successful at what they were doing, then the likelihood is that they're going to succeed. So let's say, for instance, I have a client who every time I see them, they're not putting in the effort and it's a bit of a, then that is likely to affect their outcome with me having that feeling inside of me, right? And I think that's really important. And so as a coach, it's in my practice to be as grounded and as neutral as possible with everybody, with the same level of service in mind. But at the same time, in my own personal life, it's like, well, actually, how much of this am I bringing upon myself based on my associations with all these different things? Like how much is my bank account affected by my beliefs on money? How much is my relationship affected by my beliefs on relationship? How much does this person remind me of someone in my past that's hurt me? How much does this person remind me of someone in my past that hasn't hurt me? Really, really interesting. So check that one out if you're interested in that sort of thing, and probably a bit woo-woo in some respects, but not very woo-woo in other respects, because there is actually like, you can see it happening, right? The functional patterns hierarchy of needs. I really like this one. If you check it up on screen right now, you'll understand that, like, yeah, I mean, I can't really explain much more than that. It's so simple and so, like, succinct. You've got to understand that, like, as I said before, we're organisms, we're humans, we're beings on this planet, and we exist just like a lion does, just like a zebra does, just like or zebra if you're watching in America, because I know a lot of Americans watch this channel. You're an organism. You exist on this planet, and you have to exist in a way that's congruent with the things that are traditionally adaptable. Traditionally adaptable, I guess that's the word I'm thinking. Like, think about it this way. We didn't just all of a sudden develop the abilities to do the certain things we do and think the certain way. It happened over many years, right? And so, like, to be surrounded by all this stuff that we're surrounded by, the electromagnetic fields and all this advancement in technology, my fundamental belief is that although these technology, these devices, these cameras, these iPads, these pencils are amazing, they're also hurting us at the same time. And when I say hurting us, what I mean by that is, if you don't know how to use the tools in your environment, you're never going to get the most out of your environment. It's the same with food. Food is like a tool for health and wealth. Books are a tool. Writing is a tool. Language is a tool to communicate with people. And if you're not very good at using it, then how far do you think you're going to get with life? And so with the hierarchy of needs, it's like, well what's fundamentally important for you to be an optimal human being? Go out there and pursue that, right? If you're worried about your health, if you're in pain, if you're thinking like, oh man, I don't feel very well, or I'm not sleeping properly, go and pursue the hierarchy of, like, go and pursue those things on that list. And you'll see some good results. So that's that one covered. Right, on from there, we had Atomic Habits by James Clear. I listened to this book on, do you know what I found really interesting? I've slowly worked my way up from listening to audiobooks from like speed 1.0 to like speed 1.5 to now like speed 2.0. So now I can listen to a 3-hour audiobook in like 1.5 hours. So I'm just saving time by listening to something a little bit quicker, and I'm learning how to listen to things quickly. Although, you know, if you get the wrong narrator, it's kind of like disastrous, like the Chipmunks. Anyway, Atomic Habits by James Clear. Like, I knew all of this stuff in this book, to be fair. Like, a lot of it wasn't new for me, but there were certain things in there that I thought were really interesting, particularly on habit forming in terms of a positive habit and a negative habit. Now, if you follow functional patterns, you'll understand that they'd say, live your life intentionally rather than habitually. And I completely agree with that. But to be intentional, sometimes you have to develop habits in order to be intentional, if that makes sense. It's really a tricky one. So at what point do your habits that are positive habits become negative habits? Okay, so for example, attending the gym, going to the gym all the time, suddenly you become habitualized into going into the gym, and then all of a sudden you're pushing yourself really hard, and then all of a sudden you've lost the reason that you were in the gym, and you're just engulfed in this, like, I've got to push myself as hard as possible. I mean, it happened to me, right? That's why I'm here today. That's why I'm talking on this camera, because of all this stuff that's happened. So just understand that the more intentional that you can be with certain things that you're trying to build in your life and the habits that you create, the better off you're going to be. So Atomic Habits, a really good resource. And just remember, like, these books aren't like a blueprint for you to succeed. Like, if all the personal development books worked, then there would only be one, right? There would only be one personal development book that you'd ever need to read, because they would all work. Everything in that book would be covered and it would be done. But you can take information from these books and from like these resources and use them. They're tools, right? Think of it like that. How the Body Moves. This is really cool. A blog post as a resource goes through a list of all the wonderful bits of movement that we can do, with down to like how we can do that with our fingers. Like, what is that actually called, right? Okay, what does it mean for your spine to deviate? What does it mean for your hips to shift? What does it mean for your rib cage to be compressed? All of these things will help you become more educated in human anatomy, human potential, your own potential, and also help you with your training. So you know that, like, if someone says, oh, your shoulders are too protracted, or your shoulders are too retracted, or in this movement you're looking to protract then retract the shoulder, like, at least you know what that means, and then you can apply it, rather than, oh, first you're going to reach your arm out and then you're going to bring it back. Well, that could mean so much to so many different people. Like, to reach the arm forward, well, I do that differently to you. To pull it back, well, I do that differently to you. But if I protract and then I retract, there's a defined terminology there. Okay, so that one's really interesting. Have a look through it, or keep it, save the link, and just go back to it when you're doing something new and be like, oh, what's that movement? What am I trying to do here? Week 19, so we're kind of catching up now. We're almost at the end of this podcast. And if you've enjoyed it so far, please consider subscribing, or pop a comment down below, or interact, give it a thumbs up, do whatever you need to do. This one was, first resource in this was a video on Instagram. Actually, these are two videos on Instagram. The first one is about spinal health. And what I find really, really interesting about people is that they will go to the gym, or let's say they want to start a fitness journey or a weight loss journey, or they want to get themselves fixed. The first thing that people often worry about is like, my heart and lungs. Like, I've got to train my heart and lungs. I've got to do cardiovascular training to keep my body fit and healthy. I've got to do muscular training to grow my muscles, to get more toned, to lose weight and tone up, right? But people forget, like, you've got a spine, right? And the spine, without the integrity of the spine being maintained in exercise, like, you haven't got much to play with. You're going to get hurt at some point. So how can you use spine health as a focus for, or as a basis for your training? This video was fantastic. It just covers it. It just covers, like, how do you get the segmentation of the spine? How do you get the spine to move safely and do it in a way that integrates all the muscles of your body? Because remember, your spine is just simply a structure that carries with it inside your spine. Like, there's some awesome stuff that happens, right? Brain signals to the body, signals to my hand to do that. Well, how does it do that? Well, it communicates by sending signals through the body, down the arm to the fingers, right? Down into the toe. Like, for me to wiggle my toes right now, I'm having to send a signal down my body, and it goes right through the spine. And if that's compromised, then how do you know that that's not going to be compromised? So check that video out. Really, really cool. And lastly, speaking of toes, we've got the toe spring video. I used to follow Squat University quite a lot, but then I realized, like, everything he does is about trying to squat better, and it's not really relevant to the people that I coach. In fact, probably not relevant to the way most people live their lives like. But having said that, there are relevant videos that he shared, which this toe spring one is quite interesting. He talks about like the idea of training in trainers for certain activities and the idea of training barefoot or in flat-soled shoes. Now, I'm a big proponent of wearing barefoot shoes. I have Vivos on me right now. I wear Vivos every single day. It took me a long time to adjust to wearing barefoot shoes and minimalist shoes. And at the same time, I realized that not everyone has the capability of just going straight into wearing barefoot shoes. Now, saying that, most trainers are designed to give you cushioning or support or to spring you in gait. So if you're using trainers to train in, which is ironic, really, sometimes they can be doing more damage than good. So my advice to everybody that I work with is like, look, how can you just take your shoes off? Let's train, let's do some stuff, let's build better associations with the ground through the toes rather than through a shoe. So that video kind of, he's got a little x-ray of like the foot and stuff, and it's quite cool. He talks to you a little bit, but understand that, like, you know, if you can spend 10 minutes a day walking around barefoot on grass, or, you know, spend 5-10 minutes a day, you know, working out your feet, like crunching the feet, bringing the toes in and out, separating the toes, you're going to have a better connection to those toes. And also you're going to improve the signal from your brain through your spine to your toes. So yeah, anyway, that is the summation of the resources for you this podcast. I really hope you've enjoyed it. I really hope you've had a good time. And also, lastly, in one of the emails, I said, hey, I'm in the middle of, like, literally the last 6 weeks have been ridiculous. I got COVID at the beginning of it, and I was like, what the hell? So if you'd like to see a video on my statistics, because I track all my like vitals through these devices. If you want to see a video on that, please comment down below. I had COVID, and then I moved into this new studio, which you'll probably see in the clips. And as the business is growing and the subscriber count is growing as well, so I'm very thankful for that. It's been an amazing 6 weeks, even with a bit of COVID in between. But I've really enjoyed it. I've really had great feedback from all my clients coming into this new studio. And it's a little bit more private, and it's a lot nicer to look out and see cows and nature rather than just the back of a garage door. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video, guys. I will be making many more, and you will see a lot more activity coming out of this channel in the next few weeks and months. Please stay subscribed. Please comment down below with your thoughts, your feedback. If you disagree, if you agree, let's have a conversation down in the comments. I always reply to everybody. Have a great week. I'll catch you in the next video. Stay strong and keep moving.